I think Trump was already going to win in a landslide. And I think that the media, which everybody's behaving as if they don't have power, the mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, legacy media, they have so much power still that they convinced us that Kamala might win or was going to win. So they do have tons of power, but a lot of people are going, hey, it was all the bro podcasts that Trump went on. If I'm being honest, and it'd be very flattering to think that like, oh yeah, you come on the pod, it's going to change the election. If I'm being honest, I don't think that it really changed that much. I think that Trump was going to win in a landslide no matter what.
No, you're wrong.
You really think that?
Yeah, because
it was so dominant though. He won every swing state.
Yeah, I've seen. Actually, when you look at it, the election was a lot closer than people think. I think Trump won by like 3 million. He won the popular vote by like 3 million votes or something like that. But the two things we're not factoring in. Donald Trump has been campaigning for almost a decade now. And Donald Trump did something in 2016 that he did something in 2024. He just did it differently. 2016, he tapped into an audience that nobody was fucking with, which is poor white people.
Well, there was one other person fucking with them.
Who?
A gentleman by the name of Bernie Sanders.
Oh, yeah. But I would say Bernie was more talking to working class white people in rural areas. Trump was talking to poor white people in rural areas.
Well, I want you to finish your point because I want to bring something else up. But go.
So Trump in 2016 tapped into poor white people in rural areas. Nobody ever spoke directly to them, energized them. I know those people. That's where I come from. Most Corner, South Carolina. Those are the type of white people I grew up around. Yeah. I know what he tapped into. 2024, he took another risk. He rolled the dice on a demographic that people say doesn't vote, which is young males, in particular young white males. And he tapped right into them with the manosphere, and they came out.
Now,
they came out.
I think you're right about this. I want to go back to 2016 because if we try to analyze like what happened or what changed in the Democratic Party, I think it all happens around 2016. I read an interesting article about this. Okay. 2016, Trump taps into, as you said, the poor whites or the working class whites, right? They're not being spoken to. At the same time, some obscure senator from Maine named Bernie Sanders, Vermont, same thing, comes in and he starts tapping into a similar group, let's say. Massive success. Now, not only does he tap into these like disenfranchised workers, he's also getting people in big cities like myself to be very excited about him because it feels like for the first time in my life, there's a politician who doesn't even want to win. He just wants to help. Like he's almost like reluctantly running. He's like, this is the right thing to do. And he's so genuine and authentic. I'm like, holy shit, I fucking love this guy. Rogan has started to love him. I think you expressed a lot of
I got put on to him because of Killer Mike.
Because Killer Mike, that's right.
If I'm being honest, Bernie Sanders was actually probably, I mean, don't get me wrong, we were already interviewing politicians on Breakfast Club, but I remember...
He was one of
somebody who worked for Bernie called my phone one day and said, hey, I want you to come host this town hall at the Apollo with Bernie Sanders. I'm like, why? I literally said, why? Why you want me to come host it? I never did no shit like that. And so it was me, Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner, Erica Garner, God bless the dead, and Harry Belafonte. And that's when I met Tesla and Figaro. But Killer Mike is who introduced me to Bernie.
So Bernie comes in, and this message is powerful. It's so powerful that it actually fractures the Democratic Party. The traditional Democratic Party starts freaking out. We're talking about the Hillary Clintons. We're talking about the Schumers. We're talking about the Pelosi's.
The people who aren't progressive.
The people who aren't progressive, the people who are controlling that party, right? They start going, what the fuck is happening over here? Are we about to lose an election to this offshoot that we do not agree with? He is not in the hands of Big Pharma. He's not in the hands of, what are the other lobbyists for the Dems? The big billionaires that donate all this money to
corporate donors.
Corporate interests. He is not tied to any of that shit. And we are tied to it in a major way. And we need to make sure that they get what they have paid for. In an effort to thwart this incoming successful campaign, they label Bernie and his supporters as Bernie bros. Remember this? Articles start coming out about how Bernie bros are sexist. Articles start coming out how Bernie bros are racist. kind of similar to what's happening with the manosphere pods. Once again, it's the same messaging. Oh, the Trump's manosphere pods have a problem. They're all sexist. They're all racist, blah, blah, blah. They label the Bernie bros as sexist and racist. They alienate those working class people. And after alienating them, the only constituents that they really have left outside of like the Ivy Leaguers and the billionaires and the corporations are the marginalized groups in America. So now they have to lean into the marginalized groups. They have to agree with everything they say. Trans this, Latinx that. They're leaning into all these things that oftentimes these marginalized groups don't even relate to. Like no Spanish person I've ever met in my life has called themselves Latinx.
Never.
But because of the intersectionality of these oppressed groups, they're all supporting each other's oppression. The Democratic Party, the traditionalists, have wrapped themselves around this oppressive group, these group of oppressive people, and they have to appease whatever their demands are. And now they are beholden to them. They lose the working class, and they're fucking toast. So now they can't push back on any of like the kind of weird things that are happening when the Democratic Party.
And a lot of that shit gets labeled progressive when it's not. Bernie,
it's just weird.
Bernie's like, I'm not talking about that. Bernie's just like, I'm talking about free healthcare.
Working class people,
Yeah.
free education,
Yeah.
free whatever.
Yeah.
But in an effort to maintain power, they basically made Bernie's fans radioactive. They stole the election from him, and they completely abandoned the working class. And if you look at what happened this election, you see that come to fruition fully.
I agree with that take, and I'll tell you another thing that I agree with. You know what happened in 2016? The end of the Obama era, bro. See,
it's crazy to even say, bro.
It's the truth. When you have a generational talent like President Barack Obama, who puts the bar up here, nobody can get to that. You know what I'm saying? And so everybody looks inferior.
Not every player's a coach.
That's what I'm saying.
Not every player's a coach.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that Barack set a bar that's so high, and it's almost like unfair to all politicians, not even just Democrats, to all politicians to keep comparing them to Barack Obama. You just got to go find your lane and who you speak to and focus on that. That's why, you know, if you watched Chris was there when we did the broadcast from Howard University the night of the election. One of the things I asked, I said, is big tent politics dead? Like I asked Andrew Gillum and Tiffany Cross and Angela Rye that because big tent politics is bringing in all of these different factions, trying to appease to a bunch of different people to create this rainbow, you know, coalition. I don't think that works anymore. I think you either have to talk to one niche group or you just have to talk to one niche issue. And if that one niche issue was in this election, you had two. You had the economy and you had immigration. Which all really is about the economy.
I think there's one more.
What's the other one?
It's just and I think with
Safety?
the messaging they're using right now is common sense.
Well, yeah, but to me, those are common sense issues. What about
And common sense, I mean, just like the Dems, because they have to
like men can't have babies.
Exactly.
Got you.
But because Dems are beholden to these oppressed, marginalized groups, they can't use common sense because sometimes the most extreme rhetoric that comes out of those groups is not common sense, but they're so terrified of hurting their feelings and losing their support that they just go, yeah, of course men can have babies.
Yeah.
Right? They just can't be. And I think that this election, in a large part, was a referendum on the lack of common sense on the left.
You know what lack of common sense is to me? Not talking to the majority minority. And you know who the majority minority is in America? Who? Poor people. The majority minority in America is people who can't motherfucking pay their bills. The majority minority in America is people who getting evicted, who trying to figure out how they're gonna pay their rent. The first is in a few weeks. Motherfuckers, I'm literally just talking to somebody right now, and they're thinking like, damn, I want to come home for Thanksgiving because they're overseas, but I can't afford to because Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving is the first. So that's the type of decisions.
Well, they are talking to them. They're just not, the message isn't being heard.
What are your thoughts, Chris,
That's true.
about what I just posited about the fracture in the Democratic Party?
I think it's real, but I think it's also like, if you're a poor American, really any American, but let's say you are a poor American, what should be the number one issue to you right now?
The money.
Okay, let's say healthcare, right?
But that's still money, Chris.
No, I actually think it's money before healthcare, Chris, just because your health is an existential concern. Your food is a real exactly.
Anything you mention, Chris, comes back to money.
I think money comes first.
Education, money.
I'm just saying, like, the Democrats promote universal health care. They want that, or they want to support Obamacare.
Affordable health care.
Now they're talking about rolling it back so that if you have pre-existing conditions, you're not going to be like, this affects so many more people than.
But why didn't they do it the 4 years Biden was in? That's what people are thinking. They're going, you keep telling.
They tried because you can't get it through Congress.
Well, then be better.
Well, okay, better, it might be the answer to everything then. But what I'm saying is, if you're really talking about common sense, what affects you as a working class American, that's the bigger issue than any of the pronoun issues or the trans issues. But if you don't do it, right? If you had 4 years and don't do it, and you're about to have another 4 years where you don't control the Senate or the House, then you're going to continue to not do it. You can't blame people who go, you don't really care about me. I'm going to try these other guys because they can't do any worse than you.
Yeah, I don't want to be broke.
They can do worse.
And Chris, Chris, I also don't want to be broke and annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, don't be, I'm already broke and now you fucking with me about some pronoun shit.
Yeah, like.
Can they put some money in my pocket? That's what can they put some money in my pocket, Chris?